you have any idea, like, of being your own boss at that job?
I did because I never wanted to work with nobody else.
At 9 years old.
At nine, because I was one of them, like, I didn't want to be told what to do. I wanted to have that liberty. So I've always said, if I want to go off and go to Paris for the weekend, I don't want to have to ask nobody for permission. Can I go to Paris for the
And you
weekend?
was thinking this at 9 years old?
Yeah, all my life. I ain't never
Wow.
want to work for nobody. When I did have a 9 to 5, I always learned what not to do, how not to treat my employees. Basically, I learned what not to do. I was never paid my worth either. So it was like I had to sacrifice. And that's another reason why I had so many hats, because although I was married, I still was like the main one that was making the money. So again, I had to wear all these hats to make sure that I take care of my kids.
Welcome to the show, and I hope that today would be, or tonight rather, would be. I know it's going to be impactful. I know it's going to be fire. I know anytime you do something, when you put your hands on it, it turns to gold, right? So I already know how you coming. But I definitely appreciate you being here. Listen, to everyone that do not know this amazing, incredible woman, Miss Elizabeth Saunders. Listen, I've gotten the privilege to meet her during when we was in the financial industry, and she was the one that was real quiet in the corner, didn't bother nobody, but she had all the gems, right? She was just soaking everything up, right? She was soaking everything up. So anytime you needed something, call Liz. Right? That's who we went to. Liz. Liz knew everything, knew the paperwork, knew all that stuff. But it's been a privilege. It's been an honor to see you grow, even outside of the financial industry. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But a mother, a woman of God, can't forget that. A woman of God, an author, right? She wears so many hats. I can't even just put one hat on her, right? Got to put all the hats on at the same time. So with that being said, listen, Miss Elizabeth, I appreciate you being here. I welcome you with open arms. It's like I want to keep going because you my sister at heart. You know what I'm saying? I want to keep going with you. But definitely welcome to the show. Appreciate you. Let's get things going. You ready?
I'm ready.
All
But
right, cool.
don't put me on the spot now.
I ain't gonna put you on the spot. I got you. I ain't gonna put you on the spot. No, but for all the women that's for all the women that's maybe watching it, this is someone that you definitely want to hear, want to listen to, right? Because again, an entrepreneur, a mom, someone that wears many different hats, a woman of God, having faith, believing, even when you're going through storms. She is someone that really defines exactly, what a woman of God really stands for. And so, for all the ladies that's watching this, listen, get your mama, your grandmama, your aunties, your cousins, your niece, whoever, get them to listen to this. So, Miss Elizabeth, talk to me real quick. Just give everybody a little bit of a background of who you are, where you came from, a little bit of your upbringing, so that we can have a better understanding of who Miss Elizabeth is.
Okay. Well, you and I, we've been knowing each other for a good 5 years or so.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you touched on that. So I'm initially from Chicago, Illinois. Right now, I am residing in Georgia. I've been here for like 12 years. I love it here. I have 4 kids, 2 adults, and a yaya man. That's what I call my grandbaby, or my gloom baby. That's my yaya man.
Wait, you got grandkids?
Yeah, I got one. He'll be 5 this year, actually, in September.
Man, you like 20 years old.
I know.
No, but go ahead.
On a day-to-day. But let's see. I started off in the finance industry in different areas, probably about 20-something years ago, maybe longer. Account representative, worked for this company. I did collections, billing, things of that nature. And it just gradually progressed over to, by the time we met, I was doing credit restoration And then we added the life and health insurance to that debt resolution. I just wanted to become like a one-stop shop. I wanted to help as many people as I could in every area that I was able to.
Got you. Got you. Always about taking care of the people you want. You like to be of service to others.
Absolutely.
Now, let me ask you. Growing up in Chicago, right?
Yes.
All right. So growing up in Chicago, living, because I done heard stories about Chi-Town, right? People been trying to get me to go out there for years. I just haven't made my way across that side yet. But tell me a little bit about growing up in Chicago. How was that for you? Did the environment kind of shape you to want to be of service to people? I'm not assuming that you were from, but I'm just saying, like, just anywhere you was from, did the environment play a role in the fact of, I want to be of service to others? Like, how was it growing up for you?
Well, I lived in the hood. I mean, ain't no, you can't sugarcoat that. I mean, you can't sugarcoat that. I was surrounded by gangs. I seen people get killed. I seen a lot, growing up. I could say that my environment did kind of shape it. But it's also, I will give more credit to my parents, because they just have a good heart, and they always take care of everybody. So it was just kind of instilled in me to kind of, do the same thing.
And you came from a 2-parent household?
Well, it started off as 2-parent together, but they split up, but they still was together. I used to have this joke with them. It's like, y'all might as well have just stayed together.
Just stayed together?
Yeah, because it was like nobody went anywhere.
Okay. So they didn't remarry after that or anything? No. Sometimes people say, we better, in some cases, not all cases, sometimes we better apart than we are together, because if we together, we going to be at each other's heads. If we apart, we can kind of keep some peace. So maybe that was their thing. If we a little bit apart from each other, we might be able to be on good terms. So I definitely understand that. So having your mom and your dad, being involved and being active in your life, growing up in harsh neighborhoods and harsh conditions and stuff like that, right? You see a lot of kids, especially when the household get broken apart. You see a lot of kids kind of go the wrong path sometimes, right? They turn another leaf because mom and daddy's not getting along, and I don't really feel like I belong, and so I just turn to the path that the environment now. Right. And so that's what I think I asked. Did the environment play a role in, like, your service? Did that? Because do you think, like, the environment kind of, like, also kept you grounded and humble in ways?
Definitely. I couldn't do nothing. I had to be a little sneaky keys to do what I want to do, because I couldn't do nothing. Everybody was watching me. My mama had a close-knit circle of friends, so they was like my aunties and my uncles, and everybody just kind of looked out for each other. So when I say I couldn't do nothing, I couldn't do nothing. I literally had to sneak. So
you had the neighbors watching you.
Man, everybody.
But that's also good because you had protection around you as well too. So I think that's good. So tell me, just growing up, right? Growing up in the environment, school and stuff like that. How were you in school? Were you the valedictorian? Was you the honor roll student? Was you, because I knew you lived. I could call you for anything. I'm like, Liz, I got X, Y, and Z going on with this. But were you like that when you was growing up, and as far as like your education as well too?
Yeah, I always been like that because I love to read and research a lot of stuff. So I'm very versatile. Of course, you just said that you call me for anything. That's pretty much how it's been my whole life. People still call me for anything. I haven't really like been in the hair industry because I did hair too. I have been in the hair industry for a few years, and people still call and ask me like, well, what, how you do this and how do you do that, and how, what's this product? Is this good or whatever? So it's just, that's just how I am.
Yeah.
I just always.
I didn't even know you was in the hair industry. See, that's another hat that I gotta put on you. There's too many hats that I'm giving you. But no, okay. So let's talk about that. When do you believe like that entrepreneurial spirit came in? At what point in time? Because you did hair, you doing credit, you doing taxes, insurance, you doing all this stuff, right?
Too much.
When do you think that entrepreneurial spirit kicked in?
When I was 9.
Oh, you remember the age too.
Yeah, I remember the age because my cousin, he lived in Memphis. He still lives in Memphis. He is a real estate investor.
Okay.
And so my mom and I, we used to travel to Memphis every summer. We'd be there pretty much the whole summer. And one year in particular, we went around to the different houses that he was flipping. You know, back then they say you could flip houses. Everywhere you can't use that term flip. But he was flipping houses and went back home. And I told him, I said, you know, I think I want to do that. So then shortly after that, he came to visit us in Chicago. And I had my first business meeting with him when I was 9 years old. And I told him, I said, hey, I like what you're doing, and I want to do it when I get older. So,
Wow.
at least about 20-something, maybe 30-something years later, because I was in my 30s. 30-something years later, like, I reached out to him, and I said, you remember that conversation we had? And he remembered it. From when I was young. And he said, whatever you want to do, I got you. Just let me know.
Wow. You know, I find that interesting, right? Because sometimes when we growing up in hard conditions and harsh environments, we tend to gravitate to those that have the glitz and the glamour, right? The shines, the cars. You know, I know, just speaking as a young boy, right? We see the dope boys on the corner, and we see how they, and then sometimes, you know, for the little girls, you see some of the women that's living that type of lifestyle, and and then you looking at your condition, you say, man, they got all this money, and so we don't really, sometimes in many cases, we don't really aspire to do what you just said at 9 years old. We just like, I know I live in a crazy situation, but they look like they living a little bit better than us, right? How were you able to stay on track of that, like at 9 years old?
It was kind of easy because it's businesses in my family anyway. So on both sides, like both sides of my families they not so much as heavy in entrepreneurship, but a lot of them do have their own businesses. So that was real easy to fall into, or stay into rather.
So it was just a natural influence on you. It's like you picked it up.
It was natural.
It's interesting that you said that, right? Because I remember one day I was on the highway and we was coming home, right? I was with my parents and we was coming home, and I remember looking out the window. It was like pitch black outside. But I remember looking out the window when they was driving, and I'm looking at all these buildings, and I'm like, who owns the building? You know, I was never curious about the tenants that lived in there. I was like, who owns these buildings? Like, I'm looking at these skyscrapers. I'm looking at how tall I'm like, somebody owns this building. Who owns this building? And that's something that was instilled in me, right? Now, and in my family, I didn't really see too many people own things. So you had a natural influence on, you know, ownership and what ownership looked like. So at 9 years old, you're saying to yourself, I want to do what you're doing. And then you're looking at everything around you and saying, was it at that point where you was like, I want to be my own boss? Did you have any idea, like, of being your own boss at that job?
I did, because I never wanted to work for nobody else.
At 9 years old.
And why? Because I was one of them, like, I don't want to be told what to do. I wanted to have that liberty. So I've always said, if I want to go off and go to Paris for the weekend, I don't want to have to ask nobody for permission. Can I go to Paris for the weekend?
And you was thinking this at 9 years old?
Yeah, all my life. I ain't never want to work for nobody.
Wow. Okay. So all right, so you got this idea. You told your cousin, like, this is what I'm gonna do. I want to do what you're doing. How did you set yourself up, you know, to try to be in those positions? Talk to me a little bit about the beginning stages of you going into. Because did you ever have a 9 to 5?
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right. So talk to me about that. You being at your 9 to 5, knowing at 9 years old what you told your cousin, knowing what you told him. How did you feel working at that 9 to 5?
Honestly, trapped. I feel trapped. And I say that because I am well versed. So it's a lot of things that, you know, I know how to do. And I always felt like when I did have a 9 to 5, I always learned what not to do, how not to treat my employees. Basically, I learned what not to do. I was never paid my worth either.
Mm.
So it was like I had to sacrifice. And that's another reason why I had so many hats, because although I was married, I still was like the main one that was making the money. So again, I had to wear all these hats to make sure that I take care of my kids. And even after the divorce and everything, even more so. So I had to keep adding and adding and adding, because again, I was never paid my worth. So that's another reason why I didn't really want to work for anybody else, because I know my worth.
Mm.
Mhm.
So
I know my worth. I know I'm a great asset.
interesting. So let me ask you this, right? Being at the 9 to 5, because I always hear people say, even when I was working my 9 to 5, like I just knew, and it just turned my stomach every single time. And I was like, every time that I went in there, I felt sad, I felt depressed, all these different things, right? And I just knew that I did not belong. Now, when you was there, now you said your worth. What do you think? Where did you think at that time was your worth? Because a lot of times people would say, I knew I wasn't getting paid my worth. What do you believe your worth was at that time when you was working?
Well, I started work when I was 15, Keith. So it's been
15.
30 years in the game. At 15.
She said we getting to the money now, so we ain't waiting.
At 15. And then it's funny because it was a little summer job in Chicago. I don't want to say a little summer job, but it was worth, getting the experience, in different areas. But at the same time, how did I know my worth? Because I know, just like you said, a lot of people call me for stuff.
Right.
And when I started researching how much consultants get paid, how much this person get paid, I knew I wanted to get paid my worth.
Mm.
But I've had so many people to tell me, like, the information that I give out is so valuable that I need to be getting paid more. But the funny thing is that when I charged the price that I was worth, nobody wanted to pay it. They just wanted the information for free. So then when I stopped giving it for free, then that's when, things changed.
Mm. Now I don't think I asked you, but what was your first job?
My first job, I was 15. It was a summer job. And what we did was we did landscaping.
Okay, landscape. Okay.
Landscaping. And I went to a huge school in Chicago. It was at the time called Chicago Vocational Career Academy. Now it's just, what is it called now? It's something different. No, it was first called CVS, so Chicago Vocational School, and then it changed to Chicago Vocational Career Academy. But the school was like blocks long.
Okay.
It was huge. So we did horticulture, like landscaping and planting flowers and, beautification.
Right. Okay. So I want to touch on something, and I hope that I'm not moving too fast. But you said everybody always come. Like I said, I just called you a couple of days ago, and I was like, "Yo, Liz, I got a situation here. I need to get this under the wraps real quick, right?" So, talk about that, right? With people not knowing what their worth is as an entrepreneur, right? As entrepreneurs, sometimes we will lowball ourselves in a lot of cases because we don't want to seem like we're greedy. We don't want to seem like, we're not doing the godly thing, especially if you're a man of God and a woman of God. That's like a real conflict. And I don't think people realize, like, that's like a real battle, especially if you're a spiritual person, because you don't never want people to look at you and say, well, if you're a woman of God or a man of God, why are you charging X, Y, and Z? But at the same time, I got to keep these lights on. I got bills, and this is my bread and butter. How were you able? At what point in time did you say, okay, I got to make a change? What was going on when you said, all right, enough is enough?
Enough was enough when I had people. I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Like, I think it was my second year doing taxes, and I had like so many people to contact me. And then when I told them the price, which really the price was decent, right? I gave them a starting price because you can't really give an exact price when you're doing taxes because people come in with different forms. you know, and all this other stuff going on. And the more work I have to do, of course, I'm gonna have to charge you according to that work.
Right.
So I literally had people tell me, Keith, like I can't deal with you because you do stuff out of book. So they rather had went to somebody had just illegally
Right.
did their taxes
Right.
and stuff. Yeah, so that's when the turning point came for me, because I'm like, well, we supposed to do stuff out of book. One, two, I ain't going to jail. I look cute in orange and khaki and stuff like
Right.
that. But I got kids, so either we gonna do this or we not gonna do it. So I literally started firing clients.
Oh, you started firing the clients. Oh, look. Oh man, see, the more you speak, the more ideas I have, right? So questions I have. So let's get to that, right? Because I've heard that saying before, that sometimes you have to fire your clients before your clients fire you, right? Because not all clients are good business, right? So I think at that point, that's when you realize, one, I'm not going to jail. Number two, if you want me to do X, Y, and Z, it's going to come with a price. So how did you determine the price setting for yourself, right? Because I know you got a beautiful heart, you got a great heart. So I know you. So I know there probably was times where it was a battle, right? It was like, I don't want to charge too crazy because I don't want the. How was you able to get over that hump?
Well, at first, with that, when the taxes is concerned, I was working with another company, so they kind of had set prices on the forms, and I just kind of went along with that. I didn't deviate from that, so that was one. But when I got my own EFIN and I, separated from that company and went out on my own, I was like, no, I'm about to raise the price. Because what I started doing was I started attending like workshops.
Okay.
And I saw with different tax preparers or tax professionals rather, and they were talking about pricing. And I was just sitting there like, dude, I've been cutting myself short for a long time. And they were women of God too.
Right.
You know, they were women of God too. And I'm like, no, I ain't finna do this no more. So, the following year, I sent my letter out to my clients and I let them know, hey, the prices are going to be a little different this year. And then we just went from that. And again, if you ain't want to go with it, then I mean,
did you get a lot of pushback once you send them the new prices? Did they feel some kind of way and they drew back from you?
Only a couple, not that many. Only a couple. Because I also changed my market too, because I really wasn't doing too many W-2 clients anyway. Most of them was like 1099s and business. So they kind of understood. So it was kind of easy with them.
Right.
The pushback came from the W-2 clients, because then they wanted to micromanage and tell you how they wanted you to do it. And so like, no, we still can't do it that way. Right. So those are the ones that got fired.
That's interesting, right? Because check this out. I think a lot of times we have a problem with marketing, right? Or who we want to market to. So especially us, right? Or beginner entrepreneurs, we tend to want to serve everybody, right? Because we want to get paid, right? We need money. Sometimes it's, times is hard. We got bills, it's skyrocketing. So we tend to compromise and lowball ourselves because of our circumstances. And then we think that there are not people out there that are willing to pay the price. So talk about that a little bit, the marketing to the right people, for those that are listening and that will be listening on other platforms, like how to market to the right people, how to get out of that, like just serving the community.
Yeah, you have to set a goal for yourself, and you have to know. And for me, because I do a lot of research, and we're gonna go back to the real estate thing, because then I started marketing more so towards the real estate agents, the real estate community, because that's one, I was 9, so that's still between hair and real estate is kind of like my first love. Both of them kind of together. So I had to niche down. So I would advise anybody, you can't, because the tax laws change every year. So it's no way for you to memorize thousands of tax laws to be able to serve everybody. So it's important that you do niche down. Niching down helps a lot because then you can zero in on the specialty. It's just like when you go to the doctor, you may have a doctor that see everybody, but when you got certain issues going on with your heart, they're going to send you to the cardiologist. Right. They're not going to try to, diagnose you what your heart issue is. They're going to send you to the one with the specialty.
Right.
For whatever issue that you have. So it's the same thing in business. You got to think about your goal, and that's how you come up with who you market to. So where your heart, I would say this, let me go back. I don't even say where your heart is, but you always got to seek God in which area that he wants you to go into. Because we can, and that's what my problem was. I didn't seek him at first. So that's why I was doing some everything.
Right.
But after seeking him, he'll let you know like which area and what it is that you need to do. And he real specific. He gonna let you know. So after you have this conversation with him, then you start making the changes that you need to make. Because remember we had that conversation a few years ago. I don't know if you remember, but I told you that it was before we went to Mexico. Before we went to Mexico, we had a conversation. I said I had that migraine for like 3 weeks or so before we left. And God had sat me down because, again, I was doing everything. I was doing base shop. I was doing credit clients. It was a lot. So when he sat me down for that time, he told me, he's like, you were in the right place but in the wrong position. I told you? So I was like, I didn't know what you talking about then. I'll be honest. I had no clue.
Hey, say that one more time. We might have missed. I need to write that down. Say that one more time. You in the right place but in the wrong position?
But in the wrong position. I had no idea what God was talking about. I truly didn't. It wasn't until a couple of years later, after continuously seeking him, that I understood what he was saying. I was like, okay, so I know that I need to be in finance, but in what area in finance? When I came into the company, my goal was not to be an insurance agent. My goal at that time was to be a financial planner. So I knew I was off anyway. I'm not a salesman, I'm an educator. So, insurance, right. You can sell. I'm not a seller.
It's funny that you say that because now, as you saying that, I remember when we was working together, you used to be like, Keith, you could do the appointment. I'm good. Bring the people. You could do, and I was like, is she nervous to get on? But it wasn't a nerve thing. I think it was you really knew. I don't know if you knew your position at the time, but I think you kind of like knew where your heart was at. I would say that. I think you kind of like knew where your heart like sometimes people force things. There was no forcing, and that's what I felt. And I was like, Liz, you could do the appointment, and you was like, yeah, I know, but you could do it, right? And so it was that. So tell me, let's go back to that, right? So going into the I don't want to like really say the company,
yeah,
but going into the company, right?
Yeah.
How did you get involved into the company? What space was you? I know, but for the people that don't know, right? But where were you at in at that time of your life that you said, okay, you know what? Let me go into the company.
At that time, that was around 2019. Yeah, that's when that initial meeting was. So that was around 2019. So during that time, I was actually looking for a financial planner for myself. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, well, after doing my research, I'm gonna do that anyway. So after doing my research and seeing what it is that like I needed to do, I said, okay, I could do this for other people, especially those that were recently divorced, which I was, single mothers, which I was and still am. So those are the people that I wanted to help. That's where I was at that time. It's like I want to help them, with that financial planning so that we can get our stuff in order, because it's hard for a single mother, then, and even more so now. We know why, but right. Yeah, even more so now. So that's what was important to me, because I wanted to help mothers, like I said, and recent divorcees who may have had, because sometimes I didn't, but you have some women or wives whose husband's name is on everything. That wasn't my case. But when we came out of it, he did get certain things in my name which damaged my credit. So I started working on that. I just started gradually just adding on and just doing things. But pretty much that's where I was at. I wanted to help other people that was in the same position that I was in, or that I was, in the midst of coming out of.
Right. Wow. Okay. And so now you get into the company, right? I know the whole process. I'm not going to say, but as you was going through the process and having to do this and had to take a test and get the the background check and all that stuff like that, where were you at mentally during that time? Was it still? Was you saying I'm gonna be here for a while, but I'm not gonna be here for too long? Did you already know that?
I didn't know that, because what I was told initially was that I would be able to reach that goal that I said that I wanted to be a financial planner.
Okay.
But as time progressed, I found out that
wasn't the case. Okay, so which lead me to my question right here, right? Because I know you're a woman of God, right? I mean, yeah, right, woman of God, right? So at that point, when you realize that certain things that were told to you wasn't really what it was, how were you able to use your discernment and not the emotional aspect, right? Because sometimes people will just leave based on emotions and not really discernment, right? So how was you able to differentiate the two?
well, initially the emotion was there because I was upset, because I'm like, dude, I just spent all this time going in the wrong direction. Now, slightly I'm understanding what God meant when he said you in the right place but in the wrong position. But I just sat with God. That's it, really. I spent a lot of time with him because I wanted to have clarity before I just up and just move. So I waited. I didn't get a response from him at first because he wanted me to see certain things first. So I just waited, and then when he released me, then I said, okay. Then that's when I left.
It's funny, right? Because I remember, like I said, to everybody that's watching, like I know, listen, we spent a lot of time having conversations on the phone. So, not to put the business out there, but I remember having conversations with you, and you was like, Keith, listen, January come, might be out there, and he was like, listen, if this is not fixed by this time or whatever the case may be, I'm gone. And I was like, for real? And you was like, you stood 10 toes down on it. And you was like, yeah, I'm out of here. So when you left, it wasn't really a surprise, right? Yeah. So, where Liz? I'm like, hey, But I say all that to say this, right? Because I had my own situation. And I ended up, stepping aside. And I was like, man, my spirit wasn't settling with the things that was happening, things that was going on. And then I kind of felt bad because I was like, man, there's people that I know that counted on me. There's people that was looking up to me, stuff like that. So it's kind of like a conflict, right? And even now, I still have, thoughts of, going back at times and stuff like that. And I think more so because I feel like it's unfinished business for me. But then I also realized that sometimes certain chapters just have to close, like certain chapters just end. And sometimes whether that's in a relationship or business or sometimes like that, and we will hold on to things that we're not supposed to be holding on to. Like someone said this, and I got this from the book of with Noah, right? When not Noah, Jonah. So Jonah, go ahead. Jonah,
right.
Go ahead, right? And in
the
opposite direction. And sometimes you would miss out on your blessings for being in the wrong environments, right? Or doing the wrong things that God did not ordain for you to do. It might have been an experience, but sometimes you got to know when to close the chapter, right? So I say all that to ask this. At that point, you knew it's time to close this chapter. Did you feel like there was nothing really that was holding you tied to stay?
Honestly, the camaraderie that we built, because we got, a few of us did get real close. Right. So that was the one thing that, I didn't want to let go of.
Right.
The company itself and all the other stuff, that was fine.
Right.
But for me, when you find good people and you build a relationship with good people, you want to stay around those good people. So that was like the biggest hurdle for me. That's what really got me emotional.
Got you. Okay. All right. So you end up leaving, you're doing your thing. Now, I remember at the time, because I'm very observant. I might not say things, but I'm very observant. So I remember at the time, I didn't really see you posting like that. Right? It's kind of like, I felt like it's like when Christ, when he, went into the wilderness, or he went up in the mountains and stuff like that. I felt like you was in like a solitude type of place, right? So now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I felt. I felt like you might have been in a solitude place, trying to figure it out, talking to God. So talk to us about that, like being in solitude with him, if that was the case. Because again, I didn't see you post for a good hot minute. Yeah. So talk to us about that.
You're right.
Okay, cool.
You're right. Even just recently, I hadn't been posting because I know we talked a few weeks ago. I told you, I had shut my business down. That was led by God. So when you go into those wilderness seasons, you don't know what you want to do, or not what you want to do, but which way God is going to lead you. So it's like you just have to go through the process. So instead of me continuously posting stuff when I didn't know, what I was going to do from one day to the next, I just pulled back from it. Did I still have interest in it? I don't know. It's kind of like one of those things when, it's like you said, when you have to close a chapter on something. Right. So with me having to close the chapter, I'm like, okay, so the chapter closed on this. Now what do I do with all this information that I have? Because I still want to post. Right. I still want to tell people, X, Y, and Z, but it's like I'm holding this and I'm like, okay, Lord, what am I supposed to do with it?
Right. Right.
I don't know. So I had to be obedient. And literally for the past 3 years or so, I would say that God had put me on this long test of obedience. Wow. So it's like either I'm gonna do what he say do right now because I did seek him. Yeah. So I'm supposed to be following his lead, or am I going to just step out and do what I want to do? So I had to just put it back. As much as I wanted to do this, I had to do this, and I had to go into seclusion and really find out where he wanted me to go to. Now, granted, it was times when he did say some stuff I didn't want to do.
Right.
He did. I mean, he do what he wanted to do. He say you go to the left, you go to the left. Just like he told, like you said, Jonah. He told Jonah to go to Nineveh. He didn't want to go to Nineveh. He went the opposite direction. Like, no, I'm good on that, Lord. Then next thing you know, he swallowed up. I wasn't trying to get swallowed up. So, because, I've experienced that whooping before too, from being disobedient. So that's why I say I was on a long test for this, of obedience to see how he wanted me to move. And I'm still on that test. I'm still on that journey. Just like I said, if you notice now, I still don't post like I was before. Right. So it's just about trying to get my foot in on whichever direction that he's going to lead me to next. Right. So I've had a lot of people ask me, well, what you doing now? I don't know. I'm waiting on God.
I'm waiting on God.
He may tell me to go this way for a minute. And granted, it's funny because last year, he actually sent me to a couple of different jobs to work for people. Now, we know that I didn't want to do that. But I didn't understand it at the time because I would go there because he led me to go there. But I would only work for like a couple of months and then he'd be like, okay, you can leave now. So I'm sitting here like, dang it. Now, again, I done built a rapport with people that I like. I got customers over here that I like now. Right. I'm like, Lord, why are we doing this again? Right. But I had to walk away because that's what he said.
You know, what I find interesting about this, everything that you're saying is that sometimes by us not being obedient doesn't just harm us, but it can harm the people that's around us. So you being a mom, having kids, having a grandchild as well too, right? But you not being obedient to what or the instructions that God has for you, and you're doing something that He does not want you to do, you have no business or no place in, can have an effect, a domino effect on your family tree, right? And so, say for example, you work in the 9 to 5, and God's like, "No, I need you to start this business." But you like, God, like, I don't know a clue about business. And He's like, "Are you going to trust me or what?" You know. So you saying you still going through that test. So interesting, because like I said, I didn't see you post for a while, and I'm not talking about now, but back then when you left. And then when I seen you started posting, you started swinging for the fences, right? So you had I remember you had a staff, right? I think you had it was like a newsletter or something like that. You, on your IG, and you said, welcome. Let me introduce my team and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then you had the book, Dear Kingdom Woman. Was it? Is Dear Kingdom Woman becoming the woman that God created me to be? That's what it is. And then you had, huh?
That was the second one. The first one was a credit book.
Right, which was the step-by-step process to perfect credit. Right.
Right.
So you have all these different things, just you coming out the gates swinging. I said, oh, check Liz out, right? Because anytime you see a brother or sister leave, you're like, man, what's going to be next for them, right? The one thing that I never had concern about was you not finding something, because I was just like, Liz know too much, right? She did research and she's in them books. I knew you was going to find something because you had value. So you got all this going on. Now tell me, or tell us rather, having all that momentum and things just looking on the upside for you, and then having to shut it down. What type of mentality or toll does that take on a person, or did it take on you?
It hurted a lot because I spent 6 years building the business.
Okay.
6 years, it ain't 6 days, it ain't 6 minutes, 6 years.
Right.
Building this. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? It did. It hurted a lot. It hurt a lot because in the midst of that, just like you said, when God said, trust me, that's exactly what He said. He told me to trust Him like I never trusted Him before. So I had to sacrifice a lot. I sacrificed my apartment at the time. Then after that, I sacrificed my car that I had at the time. Then He moved us into a house. And then He said, okay, you're going to be here for a year. Okay, so what are we doing after this year? I had to give that house up. Then now we're in another apartment, which I'm confused because I was like, well, I thought I was supposed to be going from this house right into, home ownership. Right. So I'm just, it is like, just like I said, I'm still on this journey. It's like, it's very emotional because again, you don't know which way you're going to go from one day to the next. And honestly, Keith, like, it's been people that ask me, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I don't know. They think I'm crazy, but I'm really, I'm really not crazy. So what I have learned is that you can't have spiritual conversations with carnal-minded people either. Because again, they're going to look at you and think that you're crazy. Remember with Noah, you mentioned him earlier, when Noah was telling them about the ark, or that the rain was coming when God had gave them instructions to build the ark. They thought Noah was crazy.
They thought he lost his mind.
They thought the man was plumb crazy. The man until the rain came.
Right.
Until the rain came. So it's been like that. So it's like, again, like what God will do is have me to speak to people that I can trust. Excuse me. people that I could trust with, what he's giving me.
Right.
Because like I said, you can't have spiritual conversations with carnal-minded people, worldly people, because they don't look at you like you crazy.
They're not going to understand.
They're not going to understand at all. And like when God say, trust me, he's saying it for a reason. We never know the plans that he has for us. Like in Jeremiah 29:11, he said, for I know the plans that I have for you.
Right.
He give us a little glimpse of it, but he's never going to give us the full picture. Because he wants us to trust him. Because think about it. If he gave us a full picture, what we need him for?
Right. Wow.
So he would give me a little at a time. Then he would go with the manna. I'm like, the manna is good. It's good. But I need a little bit more.
Right.
Can I get a little bit more? And he's like, no. So you gotta trust me. You gotta trust me. That's what this whole process is about. Trusting him and being obedient. Because I could have became a millionaire over them 6 years. But with me being in the right place but in the wrong position, what would I have gained from it?
So in other words, what you're saying is that sometimes rejection really means redirection.
Yeah.
What you think is a rejection, it could just be him redirecting you or protecting, right, from protecting you from something. It's interesting, right? Because if you think about Abraham's story, and before he was Abraham, he was Ibrahim, right? And when God told him to move, Abraham didn't know where he was going.
He didn't know.
He didn't know where he was going, and he had no idea that God was going to tell him to kill his son Isaac, to kill Isaac. He had no idea.
No.
But imagine if he knew. He would have been like, hey, well, I don't think we do. I don't think I'm up for that right now. But he trusted that everything that God said he was going to do, it was going to happen, right? So what would be the advice that you can tell others that may be going through a season of not being sure, a season of confusion, and like all this is happening, none of this is making sense to me, right? I thought I was supposed to be doing this, and this is happening. God told me to start this business, but it's not moving the way I need it to move, right? So what advice that you can give the not just entrepreneurs, but all people when they're going through those type of seasons?
Trust God.
Yeah.
The scripture, there's been a couple, but the one that kind of brought me through a lot is Romans 8:28.
Okay.
So we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God and those that are called according to his purpose.
Right.
That's one. And when you stand grounded in his word, you will see that, because I go back just a little bit, because sometimes I did think that I was being punished.
Okay.
Because everything was dried up and I really totally had to trust him. But in the midst of that, I was thinking, okay, well, I got these kids, I'm a single mama, they need to eat. So I really thought that I was being punished, for some time. But getting in his word, staying in his presence helped a lot. You're going to need that foundation of his word to really get you through those dry seasons or any season, to be honest with you. Because he's everything. And I say that's my daddy, that's my best friend, that's my mama, that's my dad. He everything to me. Yeah. Everything. So I have no choice but to trust him. No matter how I may feel in that moment when he tell me you need to go over here and I have no clue of what's over there behind this door, I gotta trust him. So I would say just trust God and believe what he said. When he tell you something, believe it. No matter what, no matter how long it takes for the vision to come to pass, if he said it, he gonna do it. Now granted, along this road now, it's going to be a lot of opposition. It's going to be a lot of opposition.
Right.
Not just people thinking that you crazy, something wrong with you, but really the enemy is going to fight you. When you align yourself with God and his purpose for your life, you're going to get fought.
Yeah.
He not going to let you just slide. You know, you didn't hit the ball and you run into third base. He ain't about to let you just slide through that just like that so you can win the game. No, guess what? He gonna throw all type of balls at you. He gonna throw bats. He gonna throw gloves, people.
Right.
You know, other people standing on it. He gonna throw whatever. You look up, here come the shortstop coming at you. But that's just how, you know, that's how it is. But I would just say, in spite of it all, use your discernment. Take off your natural lenses. Look from your spiritual eyes, and really stay in the word, because that's really all that's gonna get you through it.
For sure.
That's it.
I love that. I love that response. So before I get you out of here, you know, I know you was talking about the credit and stuff like that, right? So let's talk about both of these books. The step by step, we're gonna go in order, right? So step by step process to perfect credit. What led you to that? Was it more money driven, or was it? Well, I know your heart, right? So when the question that I'm asking is, did you always had your mind on being an author, or was it like, hey, look, I got this valuable information, so let me make some money real quick? Because I sometimes, you know, we might be in situations, you know. So just curious, you know, that's a curious question.
No, that was God too. Now, granted, when I was in school, I did, you know, we wrote books. Since I had a little book that I wrote, I won the Young Authors Award. And I joke with my kids a lot too, because, you know, when kids are in school, they don't be thinking that once they get out of school, they're going to need what's being taught in school. So I always give them this example. I wasn't, you know, planning on writing no books when I got older. I did it for an assignment. Because I had to do it in school. But that was the preparation that I needed to go through for what God had in store for me. And this is not the only two. It's a few more that he told me to write. So I'm just trying to get all that together. But no, I was that instructed.
Okay. And dear Kingdom Woman, becoming the woman God created me to be. Now, the title in itself is just powerful, right? Dear Kingdom Woman, becoming the woman God created me to be. First of all, why the title? Why did that title resonate with you?
I didn't choose any of it, either title.
Okay.
I didn't choose like business names. I don't choose any of that stuff. I always go to God. Whatever he give me, that's what I use.
Love
and it's funny even with the Dear Kingdom Woman, because, you know, what's his name? Tony Evans wrote a book called Kingdom Woman. It was a good book too. I read it. But I was like, okay, Lord, but that's a little close to Tony Evans, you know, book. And I'm like, you know, I don't want people to get it confused, and I ain't want no copyright issues.
You don't want that.
I don't want nobody trying to come for me. But, and like, he gave me the title, so he knew. And it's just depicting my journey. And I'm not finished. So this is literally just part one.
Part one. Oh, this is about to be a series.
I really hope not. Because one, we know I'm a private person too.
Right.
So it was real hard. When I say hard, it's not hard with H-A-R-D. It's not with a D. It was T at the end of this. It was hard. It was hard for me to write this book.
Right.
Because I'm like, Lord, I'm telling my business over here, like for real, like business, like my personal thoughts and stuff that I keep to myself. You know, I joke a lot. That's just me. It's my personality. But, which is in the book too. I did joke some in the book, of course. It's me. But I struggle with writing this book. It took me a year. It took me almost a year. And it shouldn't have took that long. But I was fighting it.
You was pregnant?
I was fighting it.
Oh, I thought you said you was pregnant. I was like, you pregnant right now? Like, when was you pregnant? I didn't even know. But you was fighting it. Okay.
Not a trilogy, Lakeisha.
So
Man.
let's talk about that for a second. You know, having to be vulnerable And like I said, when I first met you, you was the lady that was in the corner, didn't really say too much, but just observed everything that was going on. He had to really get to know Liz and for Liz to open up a little bit, right? So, how was that for you being so vulnerable and now allowing people in, right? Because my mother, she used to tell me when I was younger, Marquise, you only know what I allow you to know, right? So, how was it now being in a space where you're kind of letting people into your business now?
It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's still hard. It's still very, very hard, even though it's there. But I will also say too, because I've had a lot of people that wanted to be nosy
Okay.
and want to know what I had going on, and then it was several occasions where I felt like I would overly explain myself. Well, why did I do this or why did I do that? So I really took it to God, and I got to a point where I was like, well, I'm tired of over explaining myself. So then he like, yeah, well, write this book, and I was like, oh. Can I just not say nothing? Because they don't need to know. Right. They only need to know basis. And it's like your mom told you, you don't know what I allow you to know. Because literally, that's how I live my life too. You only know what I allow you to know.
Right.
If I want you to know, it's not because it's just because it ain't your business. Just, not. I ain't being secretive. It's just not your business.
Right.
But it's still hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's still hard because I have people coming to me and telling me what they read. I was like, oh man, like it's hard.
Is it kind of like that for you being on social media as well too? Just trying to. Because you got to put yourself out there, being an entrepreneur and stuff like that. But then there's so much that comes with it as well too. And so is that like a real internal battle that you struggle with at times?
More so then, it's becoming a lot easier now.
Okay,
a lot easier now. Remember when we was practicing. And me and you was practicing, and he was like, Liz, you got it. Just go ahead on and say what you got to say.
Wow.
I didn't say what I had to say, but but I would say that because of us practicing and working together, that actually helped build, more confidence. So I'm able to go out and speak more because since then I've done several speaking engagements. I spoke at, house buying seminars and, just going out and just speak. And I want to give you credit for that because, I'm like, I don't want to say nothing to the people here. I just write it down. I get to them. Can we just do a slideshow or something? Like, I'm good on that. But, I want to give you credit for that. So I thank you for that.
For sure.
And also with, it just helped me to feel more comfortable too, because I'm really telling you what I know. So it's like, it just come off like butter. So it's a lot easier now.
Got you. All right. So final things that I want you to ask me. So I'm gonna give you a phrase and you just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. All right. So woman of God.
Esther.
Business.
Know your market.
Okay. Freedom.
Ooh, peace of mind. Entrepreneurship, there's freedom in that. Having your finances. I got so many words for that one. Having your finances together. There's freedom in that because you don't have to worry about, a lot of stuff that we tend to have to worry about, especially as me, like a single mother. You know, you taking that weight off your shoulders. So entrepreneurship and just, I would say that would be freedom and peace of mind. You know,
Okay. Last,
I will often say the beach.
okay, last two. Legacy.
Oh, what I want to leave my children.
Okay. And the last one would be surrender.
Ooh, when you become a new creation, you got to surrender everything that you think you own to him, because you don't own nothing. He owns everything. So surrendering to God.
Wow. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Miss Elizabeth, I truly appreciate you for coming on. You know, I always get a new gem for you. And you said, because I told you I wasn't playing. I wrote that down. Right place, wrong position. Right place, wrong position. So I appreciate your time for being on here. Thank you for being obedient. Thank you for allowing God to be able to use you. I hope that God continues to bless your spirit, bless your heart, continue to have an impact on many, many people. Because I know that the young girls, they need it. Even the boys too, right? The young men of this generation, they need it too. But just thank you for being obedient, staying close to the word, staying close to God, keeping your faith. Your story, honestly, just hearing you today inspired me even more, motivated me even more to know that there are going to be seasons and just trusting His word, right? Because when I always say we got the independent mentality, but we forget that in the word independent, dependent is still in that word, right? So dependent is still. So no matter. Oh man, you said so many good things, right? Because I'm trying to get you out of here, but my brain is how my brain works sometimes. But you said that if you knew everything, then what would you need God for? And there's a verse that says, I can't remember the exact book, but there's a verse that speaks on, and it says that we couldn't even attain all the knowledge that God has. In other words, like it would be too much for us to even be able to even soak in. And so to the point that you made, if he gave us all that knowledge, then what use do we have for him? We will feel like we don't need him. So situations, and a lot of some of your situation was humbling, it was learning, it was surrendership, it was obedience, it was a little bit of everything that led you to where you are today. And I believe everything happens when it needs to happen, right? Ordained time. And when I was trying to figure out, I was like, yo, who's my next guest gonna be? Then I'm like, wait, hold on, Liz, right? I've been talking to Liz for the last couple of, and that's what you call trust in the process, right? As I'm, trying to get the show kicking off and stuff like that, I'm like, man, I need to find somebody. And God said, you don't need to find. I'm gonna bring the person to you. And He brought you. He brought you back. I mean, you never left, but He brought you back. We was able to reconnect and stuff like that. So everything happens when it needs to happen. So I hope that God continues to bless you, continue to be obedient. I'm proud of you as a little big brother. I'm proud of you, right? Seeing you grow, seeing you talking to people, telling me you talking in front of people, getting on stages and stuff like that. I remember the times when we were practicing and stuff like that. I was on your neck, right? I was on your neck. You were like, yeah. But to see your growth has been amazing. And like I said, I hope that you continue all things continue to work in your favor, Liz. I hope that but no, I continue. I hope that God continue to bless you. And if you ever need anything, I'm a phone call away. But I'm probably going to be calling you more because I'm in a situation. What's going on? But like I said, they proud of you. People proud of you. Those that know you. So definitely proud of your growth, Liz.
I just want to thank you too, because I really miss y'all, like for real. Like I said, that was one of the hardest things, kind of having to pull back, and I do miss y'all. I do. I miss y'all because we really was like sisters and brothers, you
Right.
know? We was family.
Right.
For real.
Right. Right. Yeah, I was about to say something, but I can't. I gotta say it off camera because I was about to talk to someone when you just said that. You know, just being where how we met and how everything transpired and stuff like that. So, but yes, sis, if you ever need anything, I'm here. Reach out at any point in time. You know you're gonna hear from me. So, appreciate you joining the show. Take care and God bless. My love and blessings to the family as well too.